All right. Well, welcome to the final-ish piece of constructing your essay and building your essay. And we are now at the writing the conclusion piece. And what that means is we got to talk about how to tie the paper together. So as we go through this, I'm going to kind of add some additionals. You've got your little helpful note catcher in front of you, which you should be filling out, and I'll try and alert you as to what you should fill out and where you should take your notes. So please, as we continue, feel free to follow along with me. I know there's a temptation to skip ahead, but you'll miss some helpful things if you skip ahead, because I don't want you to miss the opportunity to be like, oh, I should remember that, and I'll take a note in the margins or whatever. So I know the temptation is to skip ahead, but it's not really going to aid you when you end up writing your essay and you go, oh, I don't know how to do that, or I can't remember that because I didn't listen to the whole thing. So again, I'm giving you time. I'm giving you the points on this one. So please, please, please take your time, listen to me talk, watch the presentation, take the notes, so that you can get a full understanding of writing a conclusion and what we need to be doing with that. So the first thing you need to do is there's 3 tips to start, and that is number 1 on your note catcher. So the first thing you need to do is you need to use your introductory paragraph as a guide. So using your introductory paragraph as a guide. So you may have started by saying, there are 3 classes at school that I absolutely can't wait to go to every day. You can start your conclusion by saying, gym, math, and art are the 3 classes I try to never miss. So what you're saying is they're talking about how when we have that introductory paragraph that we talked about, the introduction, and how it's important for it to be mirrored and reflected in your conclusion. And so that's that common thread that you run throughout the essay. So by the time you get to the end, the reader goes, oh, this is something I've heard before. Oh, he's drawing it to a close. It's not being said the same way. It's being said differently. So the example they have is their introductory paragraph that would have had their thesis was, there are 3 classes at school that I absolutely can't wait to go to every day. And you can start your conclusion then by saying, gym, math, and art are the 3 classes I try to never miss. Again, you're not saying it the same way, but it's said in a different way. But it's also like, hey, you've read through all this stuff. You heard about gym, math, and art class and why I don't want to miss them. Now it's time for me to draw this to a close and to kind of put a nice end on it. If it's a longer paper, a good place to start is by looking at what each paragraph was about. Again, this is now B on number 1. If it's a longer paper, a good place to start is by looking at what each paragraph was about. So if you write an essay about zoo animals, each paragraph would probably be about one particular animal. So like polar bears, crocodiles, and penguins. Again, a weird mix of 3, but that's what was on top of my head. In your conclusion, you should briefly mention each animal again. So, like zoo animals like polar bears, penguins, and alligators are amazing creatures. Because as we said in A, you want to reference and connect to what you've been saying in your introduction and in your paragraphs that you've written in your essay. Your conclusion is just drawing all of that, of what you said, into a close. Basically, it's the season finale of the show, it's the end of the movie, it's where everything has to kind of be tied up and given its proper ending. So if it's a longer paper, if looking at each paragraph, and for us, we're going to have 3 to 4, maybe worst case scenario, 5 paragraphs of stuff. So keep that in mind as we think about how to do introductions really well. Leave your readers with something to think about. This is letter C on number 1. Suggest they learn more, like a sentence saying, we have a lot to learn about global warming. You can also give them something to do after reading your paper. For example, it's easy to make your own popsicles. Grab some orange juice and give it a try. So it's almost a call to action if you've heard that term before. You want to kind of give them something to do. Like, hey, you had this paper and you learned about polar bears, lions, and giraffes. The next time you're at your local zoo, make sure you stop by those exhibits to learn even more about the animals that are in your zoo. So it's not just a paper that's, it exists. It's a paper that's, I should go do something with my life. It's a call to action. It's a challenge. It's something to think about, like global warming. Like if you wrote your paper about elections, you wrote your paper about politics, you wrote your paper about culture, you would want to have kind of an additional thing for them to think about. Like, where are you at in the culture? Where are you at in the political scheme? Things like that. Okay. So the next part is, what is a conclusion paragraph? And we'll start with letter A. A conclusion is what you will leave with your reader. A conclusion is what you will leave with your reader. Okay, that's letter A on number 2. A conclusion is what you will leave with your reader. We talk about writers and writer's intent. And as a writer, we always want to be purposeful and intentful. Intentful, that's a word now, I'm inventing it. Purposeful and intentful with what we ask of our audience, because we don't just want to be like, here's a paper, bleh. We want to let them go, huh, that's interesting. So it's a conclusion to what you will leave with your reader. When your reader walks away, that conclusion is what they walk away with. It's the last thing they remember reading. And they've remembered reading the introduction, the paragraphs, but the thing that they'll remember most is that conclusion, because it will remind them of everything that came before. Letter B is it wraps up your essay. If you've ever been to Subway, any place that serves food, we're able to watch them make it. You watch them when they wrap up your sub. It's in the bag, boom, and it's like we're ready to go. So it's a similar experience to that. It wraps up your essay. It pulls it all together. You know, the bread, the meats, the tomatoes, the olives, the pickles, whatever you choose to put on there. And then it wraps it up, and you give it to your reader, and they're on their way. So that's, again, a conclusion paragraph, letter B. Letter C is it demonstrates to the reader that you accomplished what you set out to do. Now, this kind of makes a little bit of weird sense, but it's part of writing, and part of writing essays is the reader is a part of that experience. And that's why we talk about in, I think it was the introductions or whatever, remember the reader. Remember that the audience is never wrong. And remember that you want them to feel like, yeah, this is what they meant to do. Like, he started with a thesis, he rode me through the essays, and we got to the conclusion, and man, he did what he said he was going to do, and it makes sense, because you don't want a situation where your reader goes, I have no idea what this just was. You want them to be able to walk away and go, yeah, this is the business. So the next one, which is letter D, is it shows how you have proved your thesis. That thesis is the ride or die of your essay. You cannot not prove your essay. You have to prove it. Like, there's no question. But the conclusion is being able to kind of show to the reader who, they might not totally be like, I don't know, I'm not sure if I agree with that. But it shows them that, hey, you might not agree with what I said, you may not accept it, but hey, I did it. I proved it. So through that conclusion, you're kind of rephrasing what you said in a way that's like, okay, here's what I said about, the polar bears and the penguins and the alligators. I proved to you that they are all blah, blah, blah. Okay? I'm going to let you catch up on your notes real quick. Conclusion paragraphs are powerful, and I love to write them. It's hard to write introductions. Introductions are so hard because you're writing the movie trailer before you've even done the movie. But the conclusion paragraph is the end scene where, in Avengers Endgame, it's like, whoa, yeah, that was awesome. Everything comes together. They built all this. They did all this work to do it. That's what you're doing with your conclusion paragraph. You've done all the work. You've written all the parts, and now you just be like, all right, boom, snapping them back to reality, baby. Letter E on conclusion paragraph, it provides the reader with a sense of closure on the topic. Again, you'll notice in here it talks a lot about the reader. The reader is your audience. The reader is the most important part of this whole process. If they're not like rocking and rolling or on board, or if they're questioning, your job as a writer of an essay, it's not, you haven't done your job. And that's a hard thing because it requires a lot of work. We have to go through a lot of revisions and editing to make sure that our essays are the strongest possible. And that's the beautiful part of writing. It's the struggle bus for sure. And I know there's people out there who are like, yeah, that's the part I hate. I hate having to revise and rework. But as writers, we're never perfect. And I'm 38 years old at the time of this recording. I'm not a perfect writer. You ask me to write an essay, I'll do it, but that first draft is going to be not great. But it's going to be there, so then I can go back and go, okay, let me evaluate this. Okay, let me take this apart. Ooh, I need to fix this. I need to reorient how this argument is made, or I need to reorient how this conclusion is done, or the introduction doesn't feel as strong now. I need to strengthen the strengthen the introduction and all that stuff. So that's the beauty of writing. Yes, it's a struggle bus, but it makes you a better writer. And better writers are a lot better people. I'm not just saying that off the hand. It's better writers are better learners, they're better speakers, they're better engagers, they're better creators. Like, writing engages a part of your brain that needs to be fed for lifelong success. That's not a joke. Not me just being a language arts teacher and saying that. It's the absolute truth. If you need to continue your notes, if you haven't finished while I'm still talking, go ahead and hit the pause button, and we'll pick up after you unpause with the next bit of notes where we talk about structure. So structure, I don't know what chemical that is. If you're a science teacher, you can probably tell me what that is. It looks like, I don't even know what it is. Probably nuclear science, maybe. I don't know. Something cool. So, structure of your essay. We are now on the number 3, which is what are the things to remember about structuring a conclusion essay. Important things to remember. A conclusion is the opposite of the introduction. I know, crazy, but it's true. It's just the flip. So you have, it's like dark, dark black and white. There's two different sides, yin and yang, however you want to phrase it. It's the opposite. It's just the other side of the coin. It's the other side of the whatever. A conclusion is the opposite of introduction. It's the other side, the series finale to the pilot episode, if you will. A conclusion is the opposite of the introduction. Letter B on number 3 is remember that the introduction begins general and then ends specific. So remember that the introduction begins general and ends specific. So we're talking about the introduction for a moment. I know, it's crazy. Remember that the introduction begins general and ends specific. Remember, when we do an introduction, we're writing like almost like a movie trailer, like dun 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 dun. In this essay, I'm going to talk about alligators. I can't remember what alligators, penguins, and polar bears. And like you're spotlighting the dangers and the excitement and all that stuff. But then the introduction ends specific with that thesis of I'm going to prove that alligators, penguins, and polar bears are blah, 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 blah. Now, on the other side of that is letter C of number 3, which is the conclusion begins specific and moves to the general. So it goes specific and then moves to the general. And the general is the kind of the call to action, or the hey, you should check this out, or go and or questioning yourself, stuff like that. So it's just a structural difference. So the introduction is general to specific, and the conclusion is specific to the general, which is kind of a cool kind of comparison thing. If you need to pause to take notes, go ahead and pause to finish your notes, and then we'll pick up with our next bit of notes as well. Now, this next section, it's number 4 and number 5. And all it's asking you to do is, as I go through this, it says, look at the what to include list. Pick out 2 that you'll think you'll be really good at. And then number 5 says, look at the what to include list. Pick out 2 that you think you'll need help with. So as I'm reading this to you and talking you through it, identify 2 that you do really well at and 2 that you might need help with. And that's what this slide and this part of the notes is about. So what to include? Your conclusion wraps up your essay in a tidy package and brings it home for your reader. I misspelled it. I fat-fingered it right there. Your conclusion wraps up your essay in a tidy package and brings it home for your reader. So again, it's like an Amazon package. It's all together. It's wrapped. It's not generally not damaged, generally not in pieces. And you open it up, and it's packed really nice with the bubble things and whatever, so that it's secure. So you're like, wow, they really took care of this. Again, your conclusion is that well-rounded, well-wrapped, well-delivered package from Amazon. Your topic sentence should summarize what you said in your thesis statement. So your topic sentence is almost your thesis statement. So your topic sentence kicks off your conclusion. It should summarize what you said in your thesis statement. It shouldn't be exactly. It shouldn't be a copy and paste job, because that's not how that works. But your topic sentence should summarize what you said in your thesis statement, a rephrase, if you will. This suggests to your reader that you've accomplished what you set out to accomplish. Kind of what we talked about in the previous slide, that you did your job and you stuck it, you hit the uprights, you got the field goal, you hit the home run, you scored the soccer goal, whatever sports analogy you want to use, there you have it. That's kind of what we're talking about. Do not simply restate your thesis statement, because that would be what we call redundant, which would be really, really a poor choice as a writer. You want to get creative. You want to think bigger. You want to think stronger. You don't want to just kind of lay it in there and be like, bleh, because that's you have to pardon the expression. It's a bit lazy as a writer, and we don't want to be lazy writers. We want to be strong, hardworking, like always working to sharpen our craft writers. Your conclusion is no place to bring up new ideas. And this is the hardest thing that I had as a writer of essays is I was like, oh, I wanted to bring in this new thought. I was like, oh, wait, no, I can't do that. Your conclusion is no place to bring up new ideas. Do not do it. Bad llama, as I said in the introduction presentation. Your topic for each body paragraph should be summarized in the conclusion. So you should summarize them. Don't state them word for word, but you should summarize them in a paraphrased fashion. So that's each body paragraph. It's each argument that you're making with your evidence and things. So you should be summarizing that in the conclusion. That means you need to also have your closing sentence should help the reader feel a sense of closure. Okay? It's important. Again, your reader, you'll notice a lot of times we're talking about the reader. Your reader is what matters here. Your reader is your audience. Your reader is the person who's going to decide whether or not they like your essay. Okay? Really important. Your closing sentence is your last word on the subject. It's the last time you're going to be able to say something about it. So make sure that it's strong. Make sure that it's a good punch. It's not going to just be like, oh, goodbye, heh, like a limp-wristed shaking of the hands, which we don't do anymore because of COVID right now. But it's just kind of like, it's a strong, like, yeah, mic drop. However you want to phrase it, that's what it is. If you need to look at this list and decide, again, this is number 4 and number 5, looking at these, which two are going to be your strongest and which two are going to be your harder ones to do. What are you going to struggle with to do there? Okay? So I'll let you pause, and then we'll head on forward into the parts that we're doing here. All right, so this is the do not do list. This is the bad list. This is the bad llama list. Don't be a bad llama. These are strategies that do not work. You may have had them done. You may have done them in the past, and that's fine. There's no blame here. There's no judgment here. We gotta up our writing. Okay. So beginning with an unnecessary overused phrase, just they might work in speeches, but they come across as wooden and trite, which is basically just like, and then there was this, and people are just like, I'm not reading anymore. I'm done. They might not even finish your conclusion. They might just throw your paper away and be like, I can't do this. So examples of that are, in conclusion, I got to go back. Back. Some words like in conclusion, in summary, in closing, as shown in the essay. Don't do those, okay? This is number 6 of the things listed on concluding strategies that do not work. Which one surprises you? Why or why not? Okay? So in conclusion, in summary, in closing, as shown in the essay, they're overused, and we need to be creative writers in how we kind of conclude our essays. Stating the thesis for the very first time, you can't do that because obviously if you do that, then you haven't written your thesis in your introduction, and your paper is going to basically kind of just be a malfunctioning robot with, no fix. It's just going to be, it's not going to do anything. Okay? Introducing an idea or subtopic in your conclusion. We talked about that previously. Just, no, don't bring in new stuff. Your conclusion is not a place for new things. You're just bringing in the old stuff and sprucing it up and renovating it and making it pretty. Making sentimental or emotional appeals that are out of character with the rest of the paper. Now, it might feel like I need to hit it hard. I need to go for the emotional. I need to go for the gut. I need to go for the, rah. But if it doesn't match what you've done in the rest of the paper, the reader's going to go, well, this is weird. We're suddenly getting all like emotionally and teary, and that's not what this paper was about. That's not the voice that I heard in the introduction and the paragraphs. This is out of character. And so the reader's going to kind of be like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that. So again, it has to be a constant voice, a constant kind of thing. If your paper has had those emotional and sentimental moments and stories and evidence that you've shared, then absolutely go for it at the end of the paper. But if it doesn't match the rest of it, it's not going to be useful. Including evidence, quotations, statistics that should be in the body of the paragraph. Again, your conclusion is not a place to prove. Your conclusion is a place to draw together, is to close out, is to conclude, is to say, this is, I've given you everything, I've shown you all the stuff. Now I want you to walk away with a sense that, yes, you should agree with this, or you agree with this, or you need to think about this, or you need to go do something with this. Important concluding strategy. So this is number 6. Of all the things listed on the strategies that do not work, which one surprises you? Why or why not? If you need to make that work, go ahead and take a pause, and we will go to the next one. So here are some ways to, I got to make sure I go to the right slide here. Here are the things, here are some ways to write your conclusion with success. So number 7 and number 8 is, hey, pick 2 that you think you'll be really good at, and pick 2 that you really think you're not going to be great at. Okay? So here's some ways to do that. Number 1 is play the so what game. When you read a statement at the conclusion, ask yourself, so what? Why should people care? Ponder that question and answer it. So when we talk about Frederick Douglass, who is a historical figure from the Civil War, and Frederick Douglass was a slave who broke free and became an outspoken abolitionist and became a very passionate writer and speaker and extraordinarily talented and intelligent and intellectual, just incredible story. But the story of him is incredible. So they say, okay, well, the so what? So it goes through this. Basically, I'm just saying that education was important to Douglas. Okay, so what? There's the so what question, right? Well, it was important because it was key to him feeling like a free and equal citizen. Well, why should anybody care? Again, asking that so what, so why? Well, that's important because plantation owners tried to keep slaves from being educated so that they could maintain control. When Douglas obtained an education, he undermined the control personally. So again, it's that so what. It's when I say, hey, why until you can why no more. That can be a part of of being successful with your conclusion is asking yourself why. Is there more that I could talk about with this? Because again, just saying education was important to Frederick Douglass, well, that's great and all, but there's so much more to his story and so much more to why the education was important to him. And that's why I go through those bullet points of, you get to the end where you're just like, well, yeah, because Frederick Douglass got an education, he learned how to read, he learned how to write, he learned how to use his brain and tap into the already great intelligence that was there and to be able to throw that out in the world. And that's an incredible story. But that's also why plantation owners and slave owners wouldn't want their slaves to get an education, because if they got an education, they could read, they could write, they could begin to engage with materials, and their intellect would be given further abilities, even though they were already smart folks. They were already intelligent as it was. It wasn't an issue of intelligence. It was an issue of unlocking that through the power of education. We talk about how education is a superpower. This is why education makes a difference. Slaves in the Civil War, when they started getting doing secret meetings to learn how to read, it unlocked their world. It unlocked their understanding. It unlocked their power. It unlocked everything for them, because it was limited before by the white slave owners around them. Again, the power of an education. Return to the theme or the themes in the introduction. So this is where this brings you full circle. You begin by describing a scenario. You can end with the same scenario as proof that your essay is helpful. Refer to the introductory paragraph by using keywords or parallel concepts, which means concepts that are along the same lines, and images that you use in the introduction. Again, it all has to flow together. So your introduction should look similar to your conclusion. You should be able to look at your introduction, look at your conclusion, and go, oh yeah, I see where all of this connects. Everything that I said here, I said it again in an even stronger and more important way to leave the reader with the lesson that I wanted them to take away. So again, the power of using the stuff from the introduction and the rest of the paper and have it all flow together, that's a powerful essay. You can summarize, include a brief summary of the paper's main points, but don't simply repeat things that were in the paper. Don't be just word for word, be like, oh, this is what happened. Again, we have to be rephrasers. We have to be kind of refreshers in bringing the content into a fashion that is closing out the paper. That's our focus on our conclusion. Pull it all together. Show your reader how the points you made and support and examples you used fit together. Again, just a kind of thing. You can include a provocative insight or quotation from the research paper or reading you did for the paper. This can be a powerful way to end it. It'd be a powerful kind of tying together of things where you kind of stand on that quote or that insight and say, this is what I believe, or this is what we need to do. This is the action we need to take. Propose a course of action, a solution to an issue or questions for further study. Again, this is that call to action. It's we as Americans have to do this, or we as a culture need to do this, or we as a world need to confront global warming, or whatever. That's what you can do there. And then the last thing is point to broader implications. A paper about the style of a writer could point to influence on other writers or later writers of their genre. So again, connecting it to the world, connecting it to the bigger things that the reader may actually know more about, or may have kind of background knowledge on. So looking at this list, look at number 7 and number 8. What do you think you'll be really good at, and what do you think you're going to struggle with? Okay? We're almost there, friends. I know it feels like it's been a long time we've been talking, but we're almost there. Okay, so next is the conclusion outline, and I'm just going to walk you through an outline, and that's going to be, I believe, the end of that. How to outline your conclusion sentence. Here we go. So this is the last part of the note catcher. It says conclusion outline, fill out the blanks. Topic sentence is your first thing in your conclusion sentence. Topic sentence. What that is a fresh rephrasing of your thesis statement. Again, fresh restating of your thesis statement. Not exactly, you're not duplicating, but you're rephrasing in a different fashion that's bringing us and pointing us towards a conclusion. Supporting sentences need to be included in your conclusion sentence. And again, this is an outline, so you literally be able to follow this through as we can construct our conclusions to our future papers. This is where you're going to summarize or wrap up the main points in the body of the essay. And if you look at your paper, you need to fill in certain words from your notes. Explain how ideas fit together. Again, kind of drawing that big picture connection now. Making sure that your reader is clear on what your paper was about and what's important. Your closing sentence is next. And it needs to be your final words, the kind of what we talked about earlier, your last words on this subject. Like this is where you close it out and drop the mic, and then we're moving on to the next thing. It connects back to the introduction. Again, we talked about having that common thread that connects everything. And then it provides a sense of closure. So that is kind of the overview and kind of step-by-step of conclusion sentences. If you need to keep taking notes, go ahead and keep taking them. You can pause the video at any point and kind of go from there. But that is that. That is the process of a conclusion in an essay. And we'll do more work together when we start writing them. We'll game plan, we'll workshop, we'll figure it out. We'll do this outline kind of system, and it'll be all success. You will be an amazing writer. You are an amazing writer, and you can do this. I believe in absolutely every single one of you to do it, and I know you can because you have the brains. As Dr. Seuss says, you have brains in your head. The places you can go, and the places you will go. All right, that's conclusions. If you need to go back and grab some notes, do so, and we will move on to the next thing in the next video or the next classroom instruction. Thanks for listening. I appreciate your patience, and I'll see you back in the classroom shortly.